3, 2, 1. What's happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson from Here the Spirit, presented to you by NoleGameday.com. We are here live after Florida State ends its 2023 season and its first loss, losing to the Georgia Bulldogs and Kirby Smart 63-6. Was a little bit to 3. 63-3. But here we are. We're in the parking lot here. Couldn't get out on the field to do our instant reaction, so this is where we're at. But, gentlemen, Florida State, Mike Norvell, pretty emotional after the game, hearing from Kalen Deloach, Brock Glenn, Mike Norvell opening up, saying, he felt like he didn't do good enough in preparing the team for this one. But it's hard to do that when you have so many players that aren't playing in this game. Tons of starters. I'm pretty sure we updated the fans even more once we got into the stadium during pregame warm-ups that Florida State would be thin in almost every area possible. But here we are, Florida State, still ACC champions, won 13 games in a row this season, but fall in a pretty brutal loss and scoring regards, 63-3.
I have to say, we expected coming into this one, obviously, Florida State with all the guys missing on both sides of the ball. They were clearly outmatched coming into this contest. But I think it went worse than maybe any of us could have anticipated. We got some flack for predicting Florida State to lose this game on Wednesday night, and I think that we were all a little bit off on our score predictions as is. It was a shellacking from the Bulldogs, and it just seemed like once that second quarter got going, they could do nothing wrong right there. And Florida State really struggled on both sides of the ball to consistently create. And then, like you were saying, Logan, before the game, you find out you're going to be missing a couple more starters on the defensive side of the ball. And Braden Fisk, Joshua Farmer, and Tatum Bethune. During the game, a bunch of Seminoles were beaten up. Guys across the offensive line. Darius Washington exits after the first drive. Robert Scott comes in and gets hurt. Was replaced by Jalen Early for a little bit. But Robert Scott was eventually able to go back in the game in the second half. Fintrell Cypress exited the contest. Kentron Poitier, a little bit after making that big 55-yard catch to set up Florida State's lone score of the night, he exits the game back to the locker room like he got hit in the face or something like that. So a bad situation where you already enter the game with at least 25 guys out of lineup, and continued to just add up throughout. And yeah, a lot of young guys were on the field tonight.
And the sad thing is there's still plays that could have been made. Fintrell Cypress dropped an interception. Hussey dropped an interception. Someone else dropped an interception. I've already tried to forget this game as much as I can.
Shaheem had to go through his hands.
Yeah. Obviously, when Kentron puts you at first and goal on the 4-yard line, you'd love to punch that in, just couldn't convert. There are still chances to make plays in this game. There's also the forced fumble early on in the game by Pat Payton that Florida State couldn't fall on. So there's chances for Florida State to make plays. They just couldn't. Sometimes that happens, and in a game where you're outmanned like this, that's going to happen. I don't think any of us were expecting 63-3, but yeah,
definitely
it was a game,
not.
I guess.
Definitely
it was
not.
a game.
But at the same time, as Logan was saying when we first started the show, Norvell took a lot of the flack in the press conference, blaming some things on himself that happened during the game, and I just don't agree with the falling on the sword. I mean, we all knew that it was going to be a very tough hill for Florida State to climb going into the night, and yeah.
I mean, we all knew that this Florida State team wasn't the team that represented Florida State for the first 13 games of the season. It was a much different team. At this point, it was a 2024 team more than it was a 2023 team. Some young guys got some much-needed experience, and then, that's going to matter a lot going in next season. It's a shame for some of these seniors like Kalen Deloach to go out the way they did, but, that's the way cookie crumbles sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, too, looking at Brock Glenn's performance, took a lot of shots. That's something Mike Norvell dialed up. We saw a lot of Wildcats, saw some Wildcat with Span. We also saw some Wildcat with Douglas. Those two guys were in the backfield quite a bit, but a lot of shots downfield. Dustin Hill, man, almost made a phenomenal. He made the grab, but just couldn't hold on to it there at the bottom with the ball popping out. But there were some throws that Brock Glenn, you could see a little bit of growth there and some confidence build there, definitely in his pocket presence. And just understanding where the pressure is coming from. That's something that I saw some growth from for Brock Glenn. And that's a kid that has been thrusted into what is this, a situation that no other you could really fathom. If we go back to maybe James Blackman days, Florida State has had some crazy luck with some backups on backups having to come in and play. and some big circumstances. But to me, it's just the little things that you got to take out of some positives. Try to take the positives out of what potentially, is a historic loss, but a really, really tough situation for Florida State when you lose 63-3. And Mike Norvell was talking about it after the game. There was some guys injured. There was opt-outs. There was guys transferred. There was guys out there that are already in the transfer portal that we actually saw out onto the field, like a guy like Malcolm Ray in the defensive tackle room. Just all over the place. Florida State did as much as they could with what they had on the field and on traveling here.
Yeah, I thought Brock Glenn, by all means, it wasn't perfect, and he had some up and down moments, but his progression tonight, a little bit of his silver lining coming out of this game. I think we can all remember that ACC championship against Louisville where Florida State ended up punting 9 times. It was ugly out there for the majority of the night. Brock Glenn just 8 out of 21 for, I believe, about 50 yards, and Florida State, as they did turned to the Wildcats some and had a bunch of success in the ACC championship. And that was the real way that they were able to defeat Louisville. And, Brock Glenn checking down a lot of passes, didn't have great pocket presence in that game. And then you come into tonight, he's moving around a little bit in the pocket, stepping up, avoiding some defenders. Obviously took some hits, as you noted, Logan. But you see him putting the ball downfield instead of just checking down, taking the short play. Wasn't all perfect, but you see the play to KP. You see the one to Dustin Hill that he was nearly able to come down with. There were a couple other ones that Florida State was really close to connecting on. And from his first start to his second start, a lot of positive growth from Brock Glenn.
He had a couple big-time throws that unfortunately weren't caught. The receivers and tight ends didn't really do him any favors in this game. It was also one of those games that we knew coming in it didn't matter either way. Get the guys some experience. The result really does not matter whatsoever because neither team wanted to be here. Georgia ended up showing a little bit more. They didn't want to end the season on a loss. It's just the way it is. If Florida State was in the playoffs, it's a much different team than what we saw tonight, and I firmly believe that.
And really the main mistake that he did make was missing Ja'Kai Douglas on that, it was that second and goal play where Florida State was able to get Ja'Kai Douglas wide open in the middle of the end zone, but Brock Glenn threw to, I believe it was to Poitier or Williamson on a curl route that was covered by 2 Georgia defenders. So if he's able to make that read a little bit quicker and hit Ja'Kai, Florida State gets into the end zone right there, obviously not able to connect with Borloff on that third down, and Florida State ends up settling for the field goal. But there's a lot of positive stuff to take away from him. And going into this offseason, Brock Glenn having some time on the field these last 2 games, I think it's going to be huge for his future within the program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was big. We saw some growth there for him, which was great. We saw Keziah Holmes there in the running back room, Samuel Singleton there at the end. Just, you're going to run through so many people, and at some point, someone's got to try to make a play. And there was so many missed opportunities and interceptions, too, throughout this game as well. I counted at least 3 potential interceptions. There were some drops, too. It just – this game, I don't think, like we said in the preview show, we weren't expecting Florida State to keep this one really, really close to the fourth quarter, but I don't think we expected for it to be such of a blowout of this magnitude. But it also doesn't hurt, though, whenever you lose your star defensive tackle, Braden Fisk, and also Joshua Farmer is not playing in the game as well. Those 2 guys did not dress. Joshua Farmer probably in a different circumstance, I would say, than Braden Fisk. If he could have gone and goed, then Braden Fisk would have played. But, it's rough when you lose 2 star defensive tackles and going into this game, no matter what. You can't get helpful pass rush and attack on Beck, who was dealing and making some big plays down the field. A lot of tight ends that were wide open in Georgia's favor. You can't really do analysis and full critiques on this game, and that's not what we're going to do. But it was great hearing from Kalen DeLoach after the game because he was extremely emotional. On the sideline, we saw him come off and Mike Norvell give him a hug, and then later on, him and Coach JP sharing a hug, and tears were falling down his face. And just hearing him after the game in the press conference, him going through, making sure the reporter knew that he was here for 5 years, the journey that he began on with Mike Norvell, the staff, and seeing where this program is has been just huge for him as a person. And you could tell Mike Norvell really emotional when listening to DeLoach speak.
Kalen DeLoach, an
he's done it the right way.
Special Seminole. Shut up, I'm talking. his career in Tallahassee, I mean, just the epitome of growth, to see where he's gone from 2019 when he first arrived in Tallahassee to now in 2023 where he's departing the program as one of the best players on that defense, a key voice in the locker room. He's been a big part of this rebuild. And, there were times where it was tough for Kalen DeLoach. And, he could have walked out that door and decided to transfer somewhere else. We're seeing during this time that he's been in college is really when the transfer portal stuff is all heated up and guys are just flip-flopping if they're not in the right spot or if they're not playing or if something goes wrong. Kalen DeLoach stuck with it, kept fighting, and, man, I mean, to see what he's turned himself into, just a really, really impressive and a tribute to the kind of guy that he is on and off the field. And, Florida State fans going to be rooting for this guy as he makes the transition to the next level. And I just thought it was impressive tonight. This game was over in the second quarter. I mean, let's be honest here. But Kalen DeLoach continued to come out on that field, defensive series after defensive series, and didn't end up departing from it until right there at the beginning of the fourth quarter where he shared a hug with Mike Norvell. And what was the score at that time, guys? Like 49-3? I mean, we're talking about a guy that could have opted out of this game, protected his draft stock, avoided having a chance to injure himself. Instead, he's in there in a blowout for 3 quarters fighting for his teammates. That just says everything about the type of guy he is in this era of college football.
Kalen DeLoach is the man. I mean, a guy that's represented Florida State the right way. He's gone about it the right way every step of the way. Came in as an unheralded recruit, worked his way up, and was, arguably the MVP of this defense, one of the best players in the ACC by the time he graduated. He's a special player, and it's going to be weird not seeing 4 Roman sideline to sideline next year with a much different team next year. This is going to be far from the same team. And, there's some other guys that would have liked to see play that didn't play because of injury, like Farmer and Fisk. Those are guys that are very talented, but, Farmer had hand surgery. Fisk has been dealing with injuries all year. Get those guys healthy, and let's regroup and move to 2024. With Fisk, he'll be the NFL. He's earned himself a paycheck. We talked about it after the ACC championship game. I mean, he absolutely dominated that game and really boosted his draft stock. It's going to be really, really fun to see him play in the NFL. And then hopefully Josh Farmer, he looks forward to taking over some offensive lines with Darrell Jackson next year.
Gotta hope that he's here. That's the first thing that I think
that too.
Have to do. That now they've really got to work on the retention, which they did a good job of last year, and that's why Florida State got to this point. And this was all to reach the playoffs, but that doesn't go in their favor. And you can tell Mike Norvell is pretty not happy about that after this game. And, Florida State's got to do a better job. They've got to do a job of recruiting guys like Kalen DeLoach. And they're rare. They're very rare to find. But I think Florida State can do good and get on the recruiting trail to find guys like that. And we'll see what ends up happening. But we probably just got a few more minutes here before the police kick us off of out of our parking lot here. But gentlemen, 13-1. Some just saying 13-0. They did what they needed to do. Last thoughts on this before we get kicked out of here at the Hard Rock Stadium.
Last thoughts. For this game, it's hard. Like we've been saying, it's hard to take really anything away from it. And now Florida State going to go into a very important offseason here where, you're not sure if some guys that have been in this too deep or started are going to be back with the team for a variety of reasons, whether that's exploring NFL aspirations or potentially entering the transfer portal, looking for an opportunity somewhere else. As Logan noted, it's going to be important for Florida State, not only for player retention, but right now the transfer portal still open for business. And I think it's clear after tonight, Florida State needs some reinforcements on both sides of the ball. And I think we're getting to a point where Florida State's going to end up having to dive into that portal a little more than maybe we originally expected whenever the cycle opened at the beginning of the month. But there are some clear holes on this roster. You got that Tribe 24 class. They're going to be hitting the ground running. A lot of guys getting here in January to go ahead and start preparing for their college careers. But Florida State's still going to need some experienced talent to buff up this roster as they prepare for the 2024 season.
Really, my only thoughts were it was such a special season. It was so much fun to watch these guys between Jordan Travis and Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson and Jaheim Bell, Trey Benson, Jared Verse, Fisk, Kalen, Tatum Bethune, Bernardo Green, Jerry Jones, Akeem Dent, just so many guys that really stepped up their play this season. It was so special to watch their journey at Florida State, and even guys like Keon that got here for 1 year, guys like Kalen that were developing all year. It was such a special season, and sadly didn't go the way really they expected when Selection Sunday hit. They didn't get their opportunity, and something, Norvell said it's been the toughest month of his coaching career. It's been one of the most difficult things he's had to deal with. It's been the most difficult thing for a lot of people at Florida State to deal with, and hopefully it just gives them a point to keep building on, and hopefully they'll be better out of 2024 and 2025. There's some really great players on this roster, and I trust Mike. Mike's going to keep getting Florida State back where they need to be. He's going to keep them relevant. He's going to keep them as a good football team. Whether it's in the ACC, whether it's in the Big Ten, whether it's independent, whether it's in the Sun Belt, Mike Norvell's going to do what Mike Norvell needs to do.
And what just sucks is we'll never know.
Never.
I mean, it's the biggest what if. Norvell even said at the press conference, we'll never know if this team, if they would have made it to the college football playoff, if they would have gotten blown out, if they would have won a game, if they would have won it all. We'll never know. And it sucks. I mean, this is a big reason why we're going to remember this season, because of the college football playoffs now. But you're seeing a lot of national people and all kinds of people over social media just kind of piling on to Florida State for this game tonight and not recognizing that this roster's not nearly the same, and just a travesty to college football that team that went 13-0, won a conference title, didn't get a chance to compete for it all.
Terrell Owens, you're one of them. There's going to be plenty of national analysts, reporters, whoever the hell, some big names say some silly things. But as Florida State fans know, and anybody with a couple brain cells know the situation that Florida State was in. It's tough. And like Mike Norvell said after the game, there was a few guys that even traveled with Florida State that were on the fringe of playing in this game. But he noted if they were in the college football playoffs, they'd have those extra days to hopefully be able to get a few guys that were just really close to getting out there and playing. So it's tough. It's going to be fun, though. We got a fun couple months ahead because we're going to look at a lot of these guys going into the pros, like a Kalen DeLoach. We're going to talk Jared Verse, a lot of handful, Trey Benson, Braden Fisk. It's going to be a fun postseason to cover whenever Florida State goes into the NFL Combine, and then we get ready to cover the NFL Draft. A big bunch of Noles are heading into the league. So looking forward to doing that. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up from here. I appreciate everybody following along this season. It was fun. Even coming down here for the week, it was fun to kind of reflect and see what happened and what a roller coaster of a ride it was. It was super fun. Hey, boys, stayed undefeated on the season this year.
First time ever, silver lining.
Yeah, with the predictions, stayed undefeated. So, hey, if you want to come back and tune to hear this year next year, we're going to try to keep you straight and honest and try to give you some accurate score predictions. But it was a super fun team to cover. 2023 was fun, and I think 2024 has a chance to be who knows? Florida State's got to bring in a quarterback. They got to get an answer there right away, and I think you're starting on the right track for what they want to do moving forward. Either, like you said, VZ, if it's an ACC, independent, wherever the hell you are. But as we know, the ACC isn't respected enough, and didn't let Florida State get in that college football playoff and give them a chance to compete. But yeah, that's going to do it. Everybody have a great rest of y'all's evening. Safe travels back home. We'll be back here live next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Appreciate everybody listening. If you're on YouTube right now, hit the like button, subscribe. If you're on Facebook, share with your friends. Deeply appreciate everybody hanging out with us this year. Super awesome, and thankful for you guys. Everybody, have a great rest of y'all's evening. Peace.